गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् महागणपतये नमः। ॐ नमो व्रातपतये नमो गणपतये नमः प्रमथपतये नमस्तेऽस्तु लम्बोदरायैकदन्ताय विघ्ननाशिने शिवसुताय श्रीवरदमूर्तये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु चोदयित्री सूनृतानां चेतन्ती सुमतीनां यज्ञं दधे सरस्वती वाग्देव्यै नमः। ॐ शम्भवे नमः। नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यम्बकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। ॐ ये अर्वामुतवा पुराणे वेदं विद्वागुं समभितो वदन्त्यादित्यमेव ते परिवदन्ति सर्वे अग्निं द्वितीयं तृतीयं च हगुंसमिति यावतीर्वै देवतास्ताः सर्वा वेदविधिब्राह्मणे वसन्ति तस्मात् ब्राह्मणेभ्यो वेदविद्भ्यो दिवे दिवे नमस्कुर्यान्नाश्लीलं कीर्तयेदेता एव देवताः प्रीणाति।
सर्वेभ्यः नमस्काराः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्धधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। भगवद्गीता जयन्ती उत्सव निमित्ततया आचर्यमाणसभा कृष्णार्पिता भवतु। तेन च श्रीकृष्णप्रसाद प्राप्तिरस्तु। I am delighted and honored to have Shri Dr. Jayaraman Mahadevan Mahodaya today amongst us. Shri Jayaraman holds a PhD from his research dissertation on doctrine of Tantra Yukti from the Department of Sanskritam, University of Madras. Besides, he holds postgraduate degrees in Sanskritam, journalism, and mass communication. He was the university rank holder and gold medalist both in his undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. He also holds a diploma in manuscriptology. His work and interest in the field of Samskrita and yoga stems from the training that he had received in traditional Gurukula system for about 6 years at Veda Vijnana Gurukulam, Bengaluru. In the Gurukulam, he underwent training in Taittiriya Shakha of Krishna Yajurveda, Prasthanatraya, and Yoga Sutras of Patanjali with various classical Samskrita commentaries in the Gurukulam. He has also taught Upanishads and Vyakarana in the Gurukulam for a year after his studies. He has undergone the 3-semester yoga teachers training in the prestigious Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai. He is also trained in interactive teaching methodology of Samskrita Bharati to teach Sanskrit and serves as a volunteer since 2004. He is the Director of Research at Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai, and here his work includes compilation and translation of texts and papers related to yoga, critical edition, and translation of Hiltiro unpublished works of yoga that are inscribed in palm leaf and other such materials. His efforts in the discretion have thus far yielded 14 books of textual aspects of yogas and Vedas. He has translated in entirely Vyasa's commentary of Yoga Sutras into Tamil, which was published in 3 volumes. He has also published 12 research papers in Indian and international peer-reviewed research journals of yoga. He regularly blogs on meanings of various Vedic mantras and Sanskrit metrical compositions with translations. He is one of the resource people to deliver training program on Indian research methodology. He works specifically in the area of textual studies and research in yoga. He has traveled across India and many parts of the US and Europe to conduct workshops and present papers and conferences related to yoga, Sanskrit, and Indic research methodology. His special focus currently is to develop interactive methods to teach texts of yoga to facilitate an immersive learning experience. He is also one of the leading hands in the coming up with a digital repository of yoga called Yoga Vaisharadi. It's a web application that is developed with an objective to facilitate easy access to the classical commentaries of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Well, most of the viewers here are very familiar with Sri Jayaraman ji for his extremely knowledgeable talk during our Chitta Shuddhi webinar. We have recently come across Jayaramanji tweeting a lot on Vedic mantras. So all of those who are on the Twitter, I request them to follow him on the Twitter. Lastly, today's topic is amazing because we are taught that we are an expression of the divine, yet we have so much of struggle in acquiring the divinity. Sri Jayaramanji will definitely help us to define the divinity held within each one of us. Over to you, sir. We wait for your enthralling lecture.
Namaste to everyone, and Namaste Gayatri ji, and thank you very much for that generous introduction. I commence with a prayer. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I will now share my screen. So please let me know if you can see the screen.
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
I'm just altering it to the slideshow mode. So, as has been indicated in the introduction, today's talk is on divinity in humanity. a topic that I like very much. It's very dear to me. This topic is so at the commencement, I would like to share a verse from the Upanishad, couple of verses from the Upanishads. Shrunvantu vishve amritasya putraha आये धामानि दिव्यानि तस्थुः वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तं आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात् तमेव विदित्वा अतिमृत्युमेति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते जनाय. This is a very beautiful mantra from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, which means, hey, hear, O children of immortality, and even you who reside in the luminous spheres as angels or gods, I have realized this infinite man behind the finite man, luminous like the sun and beyond all darkness and delusion. Knowing him alone can man transcend death and delusion. There is no other way to fulfillment. So this is a beautiful Upanishadic mantra, which is very relevant to the topic that has been given to me, where always the Vedic Upanishadic seers, they always have presented the great ideal of the movement of humanity from a state of finiteness to infinite existence, and also towards luminosity from darkness. The Upanishads, all the Upanishads, whichever Upanishad we take, is full of such positive, higher, enlightening knowledge, which speaks about the divinity in humanity. This is characteristic of the Upanishads, which are the fountainheads of knowledge. Upanishads are stated as the fountainheads of knowledge by Swami Vivekananda and such other great scholars. So the very fountainhead of Indian knowledge so states that human beings, they appear to be finite, but they have their destiny is infinity. Their destiny is immortality, and their destiny is luminosity. Yes, not only the Upanishads, repeatedly we see across the Vedic literature and also the literature, other texts of Sanatana Hindu Dharma, emphasizing the same factor that human beings are essentially divine. They not only present that, they not only mere exhort merely by the statement that human beings are divine, they present elaborate systems and ways and means to ascend towards that divinity. Just to give a couple of examples from other literature. For example, in the Taittiriya Brahmana, a Vedic text, we see Shraddhaja Devo Devatvamashnute. The divinity in the divines are because of their quality of Shraddha, intense faith and conviction in a higher reality. So that makes the divine divine. Ye karmana devanapi yanti. This is another Upanishadic quotation which from the Taittiriya Upanishad, which says that by refinement in action, by doing actions in a very systematic and refined manner, humanity can become divinity. And again, in the Puranic literature also, Purusho Nityam Devi Devatvam Ashnute. Shiva states this to Parvati, that certainly human beings now or later will attain Devatva, attain divinity. So hence there is repeated emphasis and also methods spoken in various literature of Sanatana Hindu Dharma about the divinity in humanity. But as we have gathered together here celebrating or remembering the great teachings of Bhagavan Krishna, we will focus more on what Bhagavan Sri Krishna has given us on this topic of divinity in humanity. Especially, there is a very systematic treatment of this topic in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, which is called as Daivasura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. Daiva Asura Sampad Vibhaga Yoga. A chapter, a yoga where the divine and demonic qualities are analyzed and described. The entire 16th chapter is worth studying, worth reflecting upon, worth often going back to in life at various points of time. So we see in the, I'll just present a resume of what the chapter contains and then again present the spotlight or the place where we are going to focus more on. So we see that the first three verses of the chapter enlists 26 divine qualities, and then we have the next verses 4 to 6 describing the demonic qualities, verse 5 assurances to Arjuna that he is born with divine qualities. Of course, we are all part of Arjuna only. Arjuna represents us only. Hence, it's an assurance given by Sri Krishna that we are also divine. We have that potential to attain the divinity. Then verse 6, stating that the divine has been elaborated. Now listen to the demonic qualities. Then 7 to 20 is an elaboration on demonic nature, which has to be avoided. 21 and 22 speaks about 3 doors to Naraka, hell. Kamaha, Krodhaha, Tatha, Lobha. And then finally, methods to overcome demonic nature or demonic qualities or tendencies or negative tendencies, that is following the and practicing the Shastras. So this is a brief chapter. In comparison to many other chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the, the, the size of the chapter is small, but it is endowed with great wisdom. And even in this chapter, we will be focusing on only the first 3 verses, the first 3 shlokas that elaborate 26 divine qualities. Negativities, negative discussions, the thoughts that, oh, life is very difficult, all around us are corrupt or not honest. So all these discussions we see day in and day out in our transactions and both in the conventional media and also in the social media. Everywhere we hear about the negativities. So, but here today, we will disconnect from all those and then spend some time focusing on the divine qualities. Hence, I will not be going into the demonic or the negative tendencies. I will limit my focus of this talk to the divine qualities alone. The more we hear about goodness, we become or we can imbibe them easily. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. That which we keep repeatedly visualizing, we gradually get transformed into that. So, hence, I will limit my focus to the first 3 verses of Bhagavad Gita, where 26 divine qualities are presented. Now, the first 3 verses are like this. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam damascha yajnascha swadhyayastapa arjavam ahimsa satyamakrodha त्यागशान्तिरपैशुनम् दया भूतेष्वलोलुप्त्वम् मार्दवम् ह्रीरचापलम् तेजः क्षमा धृतिः शौचम् अद्रोहो नातिमानिता भवन्ति सम्पदं दैवीम् abhijatasya bharata. So these are the three verses which will be the focus of this talk. And as I mentioned earlier, so there are 26 qualities that are presented in this verse. So you can see them: Abhaya, Sattva Samshuddhi, Jnana Yoga Vyavasthiti, Dana, Dama, Yajna, Swadhyaya, Tapas, Arjava, Ahimsa, Satya, Akrodha, Tyaga, Shanti, Apaishuna, Bhuteshu Daya, Aloluptva, Mardavam, Hrihi, Achapalam, Tejaha, Kshama, Dhritihi, Shaucham, Adrohaha, Nati Manita. I understand what's going on, what might be going in your minds when you see the list. Oh, this list looks a bit difficult. There are so many terms, so many concepts. How are we going to receive and internalize them? So I've just arranged them, arranged all these 26 qualities into 8 steps. We can visualize this talk, or in the process of this talk, we can visualize that we are gradually ascending towards divinity. Or rather, as you see in the picture, from the bud, slowly the bud is blossoming into a beautiful, fragrant, colorful flower. You can visualize the entire process towards divinity as a gradual ascension towards our divinity. So, these are arranged. These 26, I have arranged them into 8 steps. And in the process of arranging them into the 8 steps, I have consulted the commentary of Sri Shankaracharya, and based on the commentary of Acharya Shankara only, Shankara Bhagavad Pada only, I could arrive at this arrangement of the steps of ascension towards divinity. Now, what are the 8 themes from these 26 qualities? Avoiding anger, violence. Regarding that, we see 6 qualities. Among the 26, 6 qualities are connected to this. That I prefer to place it as the first step in ascending towards divinity. Second step is regulation of senses and the mind. In that connection, Sri Krishna has mentioned 4 steps or 4 qualities out of 26. And then comes conduct, ethical, moral, and personal. For that, 8 among 26 among 26, 8 qualities or 8 virtues of divinity are dedicated by Sri Krishna to this. And then care for the society and others and fellow beings, 3. The next 5th step is attitude. 2 very important attitudes Sri Krishna prescribes in the ascension towards divinity. Then we find brilliance and excellence, and then renunciation, and finally being involved in spirituality. So these are the steps that we see in the ascension towards divinity. So the first step, there will be a small change in the order. So the brilliance comes as the previous, that is after the third step, the 4th will be the brilliance. So there will be a slight change in the order of enumeration. So I had changed it in the later slides, but this slide was not updated, so I regret that. But the order that I present in the next slides are the steps towards, are the systematic steps towards ascension, towards divinity. So what is the first step? Avoiding anger, violence, and fear. So that is the first basic step towards the ascension of towards the divinity. We see that what are the qualities which are connected to this? Ahimsa, adrohaha, akrodhaha, kshama, mardavam, and abhayam. Now, before going into all these 6 in a bit more detail, I should say that why did I choose this as the first step towards ascension, towards divinity? We see that in all literature, in all ancient literature which speak about uh, humanity attaining divinity and immortality, ahimsa has been given great prominence. For example, the Yoga Sutras, we find among the Ashtangas, the first one is the Yamas. Among the Yamas, the first tool is ahimsa. And then the Vyasa's commentary there clearly mentions that ahimsa is the only quality that needs to be cultivated, and all the later yamas and niyamas are only contributing to ahimsa. They should strengthen ahimsa. So ahimsa is not just one among the qualities. Ahimsa is the quality which needs to be imbibed, and all others are supporting this ahimsa. Yatha gajapade anyani padani pathagaminam evam sarvam ahimsayam pratishtitam. Just imagine on a muddy track, the elephant places its footprint, which will be a very big footprint, and within the footprint of the elephant, the footprint of all other animals, including the footprints of human beings, will be contained, or because of the pervasiveness of the elephant's footprint. Similarly, ahimsa is the deepest imprint that human's mind needs. So within that ahimsa, all other qualities are endowed. So in the periphery of ahimsa, or within the circumference of ahimsa, all other qualities exist. So that's what the yoga literature, Yoga Sutra, the commentators, they have clarified. And one more thing that we see is the anger, tendency of being rash and violent. All these are like turbulence in water. If there is a lot of turbulence and disturbance in water, can we see what lies in the bottom? It will not be clear. So only when the turbulence settles down in water, so the everything will be placid and clear, and we will be able to see to down in the bottom what lies at the core, what lies at the soul of everything. So that could be understood only when the turbulence first calms down. So hence the primary quality towards any refinement in life, towards achieving anything in life, be it the worldly goals that we have, the various aspirations and ambitions that we have, or be it the spiritual goals, for anything, the mind first should calm down. The first step in that is to avoid this turbulence in our mind called himsa, injury, anger, violence, etc. So towards that, all these qualities are given. So this is the background as to why ahimsa is the primary quality, or the very first step to be taken up towards ascension, towards divinity. So there we see ahimsa. Shankaracharya defines ahimsa as ahimsanam praninam pida varjanam, abstaining from physically, verbally harming fellow beings, and adrohaha, parajighamsa bhavaha, absence of intention to harm others. So in ahimsa, the physical verbal non-injury, and in adroha, the physical verbal is covered in ahimsa. In adroha, the mental tendency to not injure others, so that is covered. And then akrodha, so the qualities become more and more refined. Paraihi akrushtasya abhihatasya va praptasya krodhasya upashamanam, ability to control the rage in spite of provocation by others, verbally or physically. And kshama akrushtasya taditasya va antarvikriya anutpattihi, non-arousal of rage even when abused by others, verbally and physically. So we can see ahimsa is not just one quality. So ahimsa has these shades and these refinements that we see. It's not mere abstention, it is absorption of the tendency of non-injury in these levels and these layers. And Mahadevan, so also a polite and soft behavior that conveys all these internal processes. When all these previous 4 steps are gradually imbibed, I am emphasizing it here that these are not, or these cannot be imbibed overnight. It is a commonplace knowledge to everyone that transformations do not happen overnight, but these are the ways we are learning. So we are exposing ourselves to these thoughts, so that gradually, when they are imprinted, we can gradually work on them towards achieving all these. So this has to be remembered across the lecture. That is, whenever all these qualities are spoken of, all that will not, transformation will not happen overnight. We have to work and work. So when ahimsa, adroha, akrodha and kshama, they are imbibed in a systematic manner, naturally mardava will manifest. So these 5 qualities are directly connected with ahimsa. And then one final and important balancing quality to ahimsa. What balances out ahimsa is abhayam. How is abhayam described by Shankaracharya? Shankaracharya defines abhayam as abhiruta, being fearless. So this is a very contrast and balance that we see in our Shastras. Ahimsa or non-injury does not mean meekness or weakness. So ahimsa can be effectively practiced only from a position of strength. If ahimsa debilitates us, if ahimsa weakens us, it is not ahimsa at all. So it doesn't mean, so if I have to imbibe this ahimsa, so it doesn't mean that I should not accumulate energy, strength or power. I should attain power, I should attain strength, I should attain all capabilities, and still I should be restrained. So that's why we see in Kalidasa's shlokas, Jnane maunam kshama shaktau tyage slagha viparyayah. So kshama shaktau, having the quality of forgiveness when having the capability or the strength and the power. A weak person will not be heard anywhere. So for deterrence, so for making people not perpetrate ahimsa on us, we should be powerful, we should be strong, we should be capable, and from that position of strength we should practice ahimsa. So only then ahimsa will be mutual. So that's, we might have heard from the Ramakrishna Paramahamsa story, hiss, don't bite. This is the upadesha that he gave to a snake. A snake was injuring people in the village. A monk advises a snake to become sattvic. The snake becomes so sattvic that even when children in the village hit it with stones and sticks and they play with it, it doesn't respond, respecting the sadhu's statement. Then after some time, when the sadhu comes, the snake is in a very dying condition. Then the sadhu says, why are you like this? Then the snake says that, oh Maharaj, you told me not to bite others, not to harm others. The Maharaj or the sadhu clarifies, of course, I said that you should not harm others or bite others, but I never said you should not hiss. So that kind of hissing or that kind of acts for self-protection or enabling one's own strength for deterrence, that is needed, and from that position of strength we should practice ahimsa. Then it will be true ahimsa. So that balance is given beautifully by Shri Krishna. A practitioner of ahimsa should never be afraid. Ahimsa and bhaya should not go together. Ahimsa, one should not practice ahimsa because he is afraid of things. So yeah, ahimsaka should also be fearless. So that's a very fine balance that we see given by Shri Krishna. But you should remember that this is the first step towards cultivating divinity. So we have already spoken about this, that so this is the first step in bringing down the turbulence. Then what is the next step? Regulation of the senses and the mind. So that's the second set or the second point in the theme or the scheme of things. Now we see that how do we connect with the the second step with the first step. We see that Krishna himself has clarified in the Bhagavad-Gita, kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha. So kama and krodha are the two expressions of the rajoguna. So turbulence in us is caused by rajoguna. So rajoguna leads to kama, desire, various kinds of desires which are expressed through the mind and also especially through the senses. And from kama comes krodha. So krodha is the effect. So first we have to tackle first the symptom, calm down the symptom, then come to the cause of the krodha or himsa, that is kama. So hence we see, so first reduction of turbulence and then taking up the cause of the turbulence. So what causes turbulence or instability or agitation in us? What leads to anger, etc.? Krishna himself has said that kama is the cause. So regulation of senses and mind in essence means having a control over our desires or regulating our desires. So we see four qualities stated in connection to that: damaha, shantihi, aloluptvam, and achapalam. Now damaha is bahya karananam upashamaha, controlling of the external senses, avoiding too much indulgence into the sense pleasures. Shantihi antahkaranasya upashamaha, control of the mind. Aloluptvam, not getting distracted even in the presence of objects of the senses. And achapalam is asati prayojane vakpani padadinam avyapara. That is unnecessarily not speaking, moving the limbs like hands, feet, etc. Now these seem to be kind of far-fetched or very higher or above the head. Things are going above the head or beyond our capability. On hearing this, we may feel that, but we can see that our shastras have beautifully arranged a system. So I'm just a worldly person, normal person, doing my day-to-day work, trying to make both ends meet. So is the regulation of senses and mind, etc. are connected, or should I be bothered or should I be worried about all these things? Of course, we always know, it's in our commonplace experience, that indulgence in too much of anything, so it gives us only suffering and sorrow. The various kinds of illnesses, etc., are caused by uh, too much of an indulgence in various activities, or obsessive indulgence in various things. And hence, even for us, the samsarikas, those who are involved in the normal worldly life, so for us also the regulation of senses and mind are very essential. So how do we go about that? How to control the mind, or how to control the senses? How do we do that? What is the practical step towards that? The practical step towards that is having a good dinacharya. Dinacharya is having a clear timetable, having a system to follow in life. So what to do when? We should be aware. What are my activities in the morning? What are my activities in the midday? What are my activities in the evening? So having a good dinacharya, having a planned routine is the way to control the senses and the mind. If you do not have any plan, as a popular saying goes, if we uh, fail to plan, it is we are planning to fail. This is known to everyone. So when we hear about the abstract idea of um, controlling the senses and mind, it can be made tangible, or it can be systematically done by meticulously planning our day. So planning or scheduling, having a good routine is not only for children or youngsters who are coming up in life. So for everyone, the day has to be planned, the night, the evening, the night, all this have to be planned in a systematic manner, in a beneficial manner, which benefits the mind and the senses, and the body and the health is also taken care of. The Ayurveda literature presents a beautiful dinacharya. What are all the activities that we need to do to take care of our body, the limbs, and the mind? And then in Yoga Shastra, we have a beautiful dinacharya. And then all the Dharma Shastras, Yajnavalkya Smriti, Manu Smriti, all these Smritis, they prescribe dinacharya. So as long as we are engaged, interacting with this world, we have to plan our day. We have to plan our time. So it's a simple logic that when we plan, we will be able to observe whether we are able to stick to the plan or not. Only when we have a systematic routine will we be able to know whether we are following the routine or not. So that itself will indicate where our senses are going, where our mind is going. So having a good dinacharya itself will indicate the movement of the mind, the tendencies of the mind, and the movement of the senses also. So when we become aware of how we are going about in life, how we are using our senses and the mind with this dinacharya as the measuring rod, then gradually we can streamline and then bring the senses and the mind within this dinacharya, within this beneficial routine, and have a better control, better regulation of the senses and the mind. So when with the dinacharya we can attain damaha and shanti, control of the regulation of the mind and the senses. Then later, so as a refinement, as in ahimsa we saw, there is a preliminary step, and then there are higher shades of refinement. Similarly, we see damaha and shantihi are refinement of the senses and the mind, and then the higher aspect of regulation of mind and senses is aloluptvam and achapalam. So this comes naturally when we succeed in the first two steps. Okay, so in the first step towards divinity, we try to become aware of the turbulence and try to reduce it. In the second step, we look at the cause of the turbulence, that is unrestrained movement of the senses of and the mind, and then we try to bring in a framework for the operation of the senses and the mind, so that there is a regulation. So when the regulation is there, so there is good control. Now what is the next step? So when there is regulation, then we think of the third step. Okay, before this there was no control or regulation, now there is regulation, then we can move towards value addition. The senses, we go by this systematic routine that we have chalked for ourselves. Then uh, there is a stable progress in life. Now all of us, we desire that some value be added. We always are aware that more than a raw material, if we make value addition, it has a higher price. So the third step is adding value to our life, which has come to a kind of a regulation to through the operation, through the regulated operation of the mind and the senses. So what are the values? What can be the value addition to life? So there are 8, which covers ethical, moral and personal aspects. Krishna says arjavam, straightforwardness. Physically also, being seated straight is also arjavam. And then having a straightforward approach in life, not concealing anything, not backbiting, not gossiping. So all this is arjavam, one beautiful value addition to life. And then satyam, apriya anrita varjitam, yatha bhutartha vachanam, speaking the fact that is devoid of harshness and falsehood. Apaishunam, parasmai pararandhra prakatikaranam paishunam, tad abhavaha apaishunam, not pointing out flaws in others in front of a third person. Hrihi, lajja, sense of shame in doing unacceptable deeds. Then shaucham, dvividham mrijjalakritam bahyam, abhyantarancha manobuddhyoho nairmalyam, maya ragadi kalushya bhavaha evam dvividham shaucham. It is of 2 types, internal and external. Cleansing by water, etc. is external. Internal cleanliness is being free from impurities like deceit, passion, etc. Sattva samshuddhihi, purity in transaction, especially financial, avoiding cheating and not operating behind a false facade. Tapaha, vak sanyamanam, vaksyamanam shariradi, physical, verbal, mental disciplining. Swadhyayaha, practice of recitation of Vedic lore, chanting the scriptures. So that is swadhyaya. Tapaha is doing vratas like mauna vrata and then upavasa vrata. All these are tapaha and this is swadhyaya. So these are the values that we can add to our regulated life. So which is regulated through the first 2 steps. These are the values that we can add to our life. So it's a commonplace knowledge that, of course, we need a very good harvest. Speaking in terms of agriculture, farmers protest is going on. So speaking in the language of farmers, of course, we should work towards having a very good harvest. We should be able to harvest the grains very well, the vegetables and other pulses and cereals that we have planted. A farmer, he should have a very good harvest. Yes, the harvest itself is good. And then if the harvest is processed, if the grains and vegetables are processed very well, then the price that the processed vegetables and cereals and the grains will fetch will be very higher. So similarly, just an example. So the third step is when we add ethical, moral and personal values, life values like this, then our life becomes much more valuable, in the sense we ourselves value our lives. Many a time we will regret. Why have I done this? I don't, is it unworthy of me? So many times we regret, repent. But when we add these values to ourselves, then self-esteem is taken care of, number one. So we become valuable to ourselves. Number two, we become a valuable member of the society also. We also become a useful member to the society. So these value additions are not only value additions for ourselves, and we will be a valuable, useful person to the society by incorporating these values gradually in our life. So that is the third step. And then what is the fourth step? The fourth step is brilliance or excellence. That's what we see Krishna has given us. So the word that Krishna uses to this is tejaha, pragalbhyam, na tvagata deeptihi. It's brilliance, excellence, proficiency, skill, confidence, and not the mere shine in the skin. So tejaha does not mean a glow in the skin. It is brilliance, excellence, proficiency, skill, and confidence. So that is tejaha. So how do we see this? We see that the values, the set of eight values are there, and those eight values are to be very deeply pursued. They are not just, okay, the values you saw, shaucham, and then tapaha, swadhyayaha. So those are a few among the values which are presented in step 3. So it's not just carefully or carelessly or just for namesake doing it with utmost focus, utmost respect, utmost shraddha, doing the polishing those qualities in such a manner that it finally emerges into brilliance. So be it straightforwardness, be it satyam, apaishunam, or hrihi, or shaucham, doing this in such a manner that it cannot be done. Those qualities cannot be done in any more better manner. So polishing, refining those again and again. It's not mere receiving and trying to practice them. It has to be taken to a very great level of refinement. Only when that refinement is brought about, the brilliance naturally emerges. We see this hint towards this in the in the Yoga Sutra also. Patanjali says ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha, all these yamas and niyamas are presented, but he says ahimsa pratishtayam. So one should be firmly established, one should be deeply established, unshakably established in ahimsa, unshakably established in satya, unshakably established in non-coveting others' possessions. So in this way, all these qualities are to be polished, and refined to a very great extent. Only then, thus brilliance, the skill, the confidence, the proficiency, and not that they can be imbibed well, they can also be radiated. As we see, ahimsa pratishtayam tat sannidhau vairatyagaha. Whoever is absolutely very deeply established in ahimsa, what happens? The highest state of ahimsa, if a person is established in, then what happens? He starts radiating ahimsa. Those around him will shed their enmity, shed their tendency of enmity in them around, so he can radiate ahimsa. So to such level, one has to polish these qualities. That is indicated by this tejaha. We also see in the Bhagavad-Gita, yogaha karmasu kaushalam. We learn something, we have to go to the highest level of refinement in any task that we take. So the next one, we quickly move to the next one. So, okay, we spoke about overcoming anger, we spoke about regulating the senses. Then we spoke about adding values in a regulated life. Then we spoke about reaching the pinnacle of refinement in any qualities that we would want to imbibe in us. And then, so this seems to be a vertical movement. This seems to be a vertical ascension. Is this ascension towards divinity a vertical activity? So far, till the fourth step, we see this as a vertical activity focused on an individual alone. But then in the fifth step, Krishna changes our perspective. He says that it is not a mere vertical ascension, it is also a horizontal expansion. So it's both a movement vertical and also horizontal. It's not that I only refine myself and become good. I should also take people along with me. I should care for people around me, the society, people around us. So they should also be taken care of. So that also is essential in the ascension towards divinity. What are the qualities? Dhanam, Yathashakti Samvibhagaha Annadinam, sharing food and other such material to the best of one's capacity. Yajnaha, Shrautaha, Agnihotradihi, Smartascha Deva Yajnadihi, maintaining the balance with all layers of cosmos, performing Agnihotra, the 5 yajnas, which in essence contain the quality of gratitude, the attitude of sharing without expectation. So that is the essence of yajna. And then bhuteshu daya, kripa bhuteshu dukhiteshu, compassion in those that are suffering. So we see that in this divinity, ascension towards divinity, it is both a vertical and horizontal movement. It's an expansion and also an ascension. And one more point about this is these 3 are the qualities which establish an undercurrent of connection in humanity. We all just take a stroll at about 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening on any road, especially in Bangalore. You just take a stroll, you see everyone is within their houses, as if everyone is glued to the TV. Normally, it's not that everyone is watching TV alone all the time, but at that time, you can just observe that everyone is limited and staying within that limited sphere. It is as if everyone is living in their own island. But human life is not like that. It is not like the scene that we see in the evening stroll that we observe, where everyone is sitting and watching the serial. But in essence, we see the humanity is connected with each other, and there are undercurrents of connection everywhere. The scriptures, our shastras, use these qualities or these rituals or injunctions like dana, yajna, and daya to establish the undercurrent of connection between the seemingly island consciousness. So everyone is endowed with consciousness, but our consciousness is limited towards only us and our family. But that island is gradually expanded to a continent through these qualities. So hence these are the qualities that establish those undercurrents. And when the great avatara purushas come, they use these self same undercurrents that are existing in the society to lift the entire society to a greater level. When Vivekananda spoke, when Vivekananda addressed the humanity could respond to him beautifully, because all of them were connected through these undercurrents. The humanity is not in isolation. They are connected through these undercurrents, and it is our responsibility to keep alive these undercurrents. So when the society as a whole might feel a downfall, for the avatars to lift us up as a whole, these undercurrents are essential. So these have very deep social impact or implications. So care for others is an important fifth step. Then the sixth step. Okay. Now, what is the next step is, so in all these 5 steps, it is as if we are building a dream house. We have a dream house in our mind. We are collecting, pooling our resources and building or erecting the mansion of our dreams. So, and in the construction of the mansion, of course, the bricks, cement, the painting, the electrical connection, the plumbing work, all that is important. So in that process, what is more important is to move or to develop the, or to uh, increase the construction from one floor to the other. What is important is a scaffolding or the support mechanism. If that is there established very well, only when the scaffolding is proper can the mansion raise from one floor to the other, can the building can be built, the stories upon stories can be built only when the scaffolding or the support mechanism is good. So in the journey or towards ascension towards divinity, 2 qualities are presented by Bhagavan Krishna as the scaffolding, which are very essential attitudes to the mind for whoever wants to transform himself or whoever wants to take the voyage in the path of divinity. What are those? Dhritihi देहेन्द्रियेषु अवसादं प्राप्तेषु तस्य प्रतिषेधकः अंतःकरण वृत्तिविशेषः येन उत्तम्भितानि करणानि देहश्च न अवसीदन्ति. So dhritihi is strength of mind, taking failure in stride and forging ahead. As I mentioned earlier, transformation towards divinity is not an easy job. There will be many slippages, many unexpected turns, obstacles, bottlenecks we will face, and there will be failures. So in that path, what is more important is the fighting spirit, the strength of the mind to take failure in the stride and then forge ahead. So that utsaha, even in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, we see that utsaha. Swami Vivekananda says a personality is constructed by 1000 failures. So we should be ready to take those failures in stride and then forge ahead. So towards this ascension of towards divinity, this is an important quality. And furthermore important is natimanita, atyartham manaha, atimanaha, etc. That is, which means absence of excess self pride, not assuming that I have now become worship worthy, not having inflated sense about one's own accomplishments. So this is a very dangerous tendency. When we work towards a little refinement, we feel as if we are above others. We feel as if we are a class apart. We feel as if we have become worship worthy. We feel as if we are peerless, means all others are low and I am the one who is above others. So such manita, atimanita will come. So one should be very careful in this. So even in the Yoga Sutras, we see on a couple of occasions Patanjali reminding us about this sangasmaya akaranam. So one should not even think about, in the path of refinement, whoever is proceeding, one should not even think or even acknowledge that I have externally acknowledged, though internally one should be evaluating one's progress, but one should not be proud or arrogant or even have an inflated sense that I am above all. So that humility and the fighting spirit are the 2 strong scaffoldings that we need, which also serves as the 6th step towards the ascension towards divinity. Now comes the 7th, the penultimate step, which is very interesting, very important, very insightful even towards the divinity, that is renunciation. So it is, the commentary is very short and very crisp. Tyagaha Sannyasaha. Tyagaha is defined by Shankaracharya as renunciation. So what is this? We see that by over these 6 steps have been systematically ascended upon. So in this process, what happens? We get associated, attached with our progress. So the mansion that has been erected in this manner, so we become attached to this. So that attachment towards the progress that we have made thus far, that has to be overcome. So this is like, for an example, just to see what happens is, we have a big mirror, and then we can compare all the previous 6 steps, like polishing the mirror. The mirror is not very clean, not very clear. We polish it, polish it, polish it, polish it, polish it to a very great level. So that very great mirror, very clear mirror, is now able to reflect us as we are. It's a brilliant reflection, spotless reflection, but we should still understand that it is just a reflection and it is not the original. So it is just a pratibimba and not the bimba. What we are after in the path of divinity is not the reflection. Of course, the refinement of the body, refinement of the mind, refinement of speech, refinement of the senses are to be achieved, and these are to be achieved not merely for their own refinement. It is first to understand the indwelling divinity within us, and then that has to be that reflection that it presents, that the mind presents, that reflection has to be transcended. So a detachment has to be developed, a higher level of detachment has to be developed, so that we can move towards the original from the mere reflection. So this is a very challenging step, and this is a befitting challenge for a person who has come thus far. So we see Krishna, who speaks this about this himself, is a Tyagamurti, means he is an embodiment of renunciation. Sitting in his palace in Dwaraka, he speaks this to Rukmini. He says, Nishkinchana vayam shashvan nishkinchana janapriyah tasmat prayena na hyadhyaha mam bhajanti sumadhyame. Oh beautiful one, Rukmini. Nishkinchana vayam means I am totally possessionless, means I am a daridra, means I am attached to none. I don't own anything. So that is the mental attitude Sri Krishna has. That's what he is expressing to Rukmini. He says, Nishkinchana Janapriya. Hence, people who have renounced. So I totally have the attitude of renunciation, and whoever has that attitude of renunciation, like me, means they love me because of my nishkinchana nature. Tasmat, in a jocular, in a jovial manner, Krishna says, Tasmat prayena nahi adhyaha mam bhajanti. Hence, rich people never think of me, which means people who are endowed with resources, they run after the yoga kshema, attaining more and more, and then protecting those wealth and resources, and hence they never turn towards Shri Krishna, who is Nishkinchana. So in the same way, so this displays great renunciation. He was the Dwarakadhisha. He was the king of Dwaraka, the kingmaker, the one who managed the entire Mahabharata war, the mighty, powerful, rich person. At the core of himself, he is endowed with renunciation. Krishna also continues to Rukmini and says, Udasina vayam nunam na stri apatyartha kamukaha na striapatyartha kamukaha atmalabdhya asmahe purnaha gehayor jyotirakriyaha. We are udasina, we are indifferent. That is, Krishna says about him, he describes about himself, I am indifferent about all my possessions, wealth, the near and dear, and I am established in the pure awareness of the consciousness, Satchidananda Swarupa, and I'm neither attached to my house, neither attached to the house of bricks and wall, nor this house of flesh and bones. That's what he says. So the seventh penultimate step is to move from the reflection to the reality by renouncing, total renunciation. And then finally, spirituality, being endowed in, being absorbed in the true nature of the self, which is presented as Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi. I think I'm running out of time. Just summarizing this, as you can see, Jnana here refers to learning from scriptures and teachers about the nature of the self, and yoga refers to working towards realization of truths grasped through jnana with one pointed focus by restraining senses, etc. Being devoted to such a jnana and yoga is jnana yoga vyavasthitihi. Through renunciation, what are we moving towards? Through the to the Satchidananda Swarupa, to learn about the Satchidananda Atman within us. Not only mere jnana, learning about it, we have to work towards that, and working towards that with one pointed focus, that is called as yoga, and being established in that is jnana yoga vyavasthitihi. The one who is established in that, he is the divinity, he becomes the divinity, because the pure consciousness, he realizes that the divine consciousness that shines forth in him is found in every entity. So he becomes the Paramatman himself. And to this, Shankaracharya says, Esha Pradhana Daivi Satviki Sampat. This is the main sattvic divine virtue, so which makes a person a god. So the point is, all the 7 steps are towards helping us in this, in cultivating this 8th quality that leads us towards the divinity in us. So these are the 8 steps that we have seen. Now just we will think whether how will the society be when individuals are oriented towards cultivating these qualities. Are there societies, were there societies that existed where people were oriented towards these qualities? We see in the Chandogya Upanishad such a society where people were working towards the divinity within themselves are there. So they are mentioned there. Namesteno janapade na kadaryo na madhyapaha na anahitagnihi na vidwan na swairi kutaha. This is a declaration of a king of the Chandogya Upanishad. He says there is no thief and no person who is not virtuous, and no person that is who is addicted to alcohol, or all these are not practicing the dharma, and who is not scholarly. So everyone is a scholar, everyone is virtuous, and everyone is disciplined in my society. So this is divinity. Such societies did exist, and also we see in Mahabharata such societies existing. Now, having existed, we see about that. Navairajyam narajasit nachadando na dandikaha dharmenaiva prajas sarvaha rakshanti sma parasparam. So hence no king, no ruler, no rule, no one to punish, no punishment. Everyone followed the path of dharma, which is divinity, and then the society itself was very harmonious. Hence why I state this is that this is not utopian, this is not impossible, but if each of us heed to the teachings of Sri Krishna and work on ourselves with these qualities, then of course we can move towards that indwelling divinity in us. And of course our itihasas, the Puranas, our recorded history are endowed with so many individuals who are personification of divinity. Why to look into the itihasas or Puranas? Our own recent history where we see Sri Ramana Maharshi, the Kanchi Paramacharya, Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vedanta Deshika, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishnamacharya, who lived for 100 years by his yoga sadhana. So all these in the recorded recent history, we see people who were walking gods amidst us. So hence, this is not utopian. Now, one point of clarification is, if not all the 26 qualities, I understand that not all the 26 qualities can be imbibed at in one life. This is a process for many lives. That's why Krishna says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Our Hindu Sanatana Dharma does not see life as starting with birth and ending with death. It is a continuous cyclical process. So whether we are going down the spiral or up the spiral, or are we ascending the steps, depends upon whether we take it upon us to follow these divine qualities. That's one point. So it's a long drawn process, a systematic process which covers many lives. So one has to work gradually towards that. That's one point. If not systematically possible, one feels that no, all these 26 are overwhelming for me. Just living for one quality makes a person divine. We have so many examples. Karna is known for his Dana Guna. Harishchandra is known for his Satya Guna. Shibi Chakravarti is known for his Daya Guna. Just for a pigeon, he was ready to cut his flesh and give it to the vulture. And so many, even Mahatma Gandhi, we celebrate him as Mahatma, our father of our nation. He lived for ahimsa. So in this way, we see just living for one quality even among these will immortalize us, will lead to immortal fame and glory. Not only fame and glory, it will also inspire the fellow beings, people around us, to rise above the current level of existence. So in this way, of course, these are not utopian ideas. These are practicable. It's all about applying our mind. So all the 8 points that we saw are summarized, or the 8 themes that we saw can be summarized into 8 aphorisms. So the first one is, in the ascent to divinity, non-violence from a position of strength can be seen as the first step. Organizing and optimizing the use of senses and the mind with a beneficial daily routine is the second step to ascend towards divinity. Refinement in working of the senses and the mind is the third step towards the ascent towards divinity. Pushing the limits of refinement to attain brilliance and being dynamic is the fourth step in ascent to divinity. Fifth step in the ascent to divinity, expanding oneself and heartily sharing resources with fellow beings. The sixth step, fortitude and absence of arrogance is the sixth step. Seventh step is renunciation is the penultimate step. And the final step is sustained effort to realize and abide in one's true conscious nature. So these are the 8 sutras or 8 aphorisms or 8 simple statements that convey how we can gradually move or work in the path of transforming our humanity, the humanity that is within us, into divinity. So finally, what should I say? There can be no conclusion to this, because we cannot stop this anywhere. It's a lifelong process or many life process. So there can be no end to this discussion, or there can be an end to the description, but or the discussion or the talk, but there cannot be an end to the process. This is a many life process that we have to continue. So all that was intended through this talk was the great lamp of knowledge that is left to us by Sri Krishna. A spark from it was presented through this talk, so that it was intended to ignite or present a spark by which an ignition can be provided towards developing a growing glow gracefully towards godliness. I stop just with quoting a verse upon which you can reflect. There is a beautiful shloka. It's a Subhashita. We see Mahata Punya Panyena Kriteyam Kaya Naustvaya Param Dukkhodadher Gantum Tara Yavanna Bhidyate. After paying heavy price in form of good deeds, you have purchased this ship of human body capable of taking one beyond the ocean of sorrow. Therefore, cross this ocean before the ship breaks up. Thank you very much. I end my talk here. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity once again in their platform. Namaste.
I immensely thank you, Sri Jayaraman sir, for having ignited the divinity within all of us. So we have another part of the session of the question answers. And as it has been the custom in our previous webinars too, we have opened the chat box for everyone to post their questions. So I request all of you to provide your feedback for today's session, and the feedback link has been posted in the chat box. Also, there is for your magnanimous donations will come back to you in the form of another thought-provoking webinars. So we will take up the question answer session, sir. So we are getting more comments on the chat box. Dhanyavada Mahodaya, and it was a great scholarly presentation. Thank you, sir. So we have one more comment on saying it's a very enlightening session from Lakshmi. Very well explained. Thank you very much, sir. So we have one question now, sir. Which quality of human can be compared to the hiss of a snake?
So, yeah, it's an interesting question. So what is the hiss of the snake? Whatever we do to preserve ourselves. So that is the hiss of the snake. Means it is, so in that story also, that is what is there. So self-preservation is very essential. And for self-preservation, bare minimum self-preservation, acts of bare minimum self-preservation, of course, can be done. So there is a story in Chandogya Upanishad. I'm reminded of one story from this story. So there is a great Vedic scholar, and he is well versed in the Vedas, but there is a famine. So then what happens? He follows all the Vedic rules and regulations in a very systematic manner. What happens is he is out of food, as is the society, the people around. So he goes round and round in search of food. There he sees a people, the elephant mahots. So those who tend elephants. So they have some grains with them. So he begs from them to ask them to share with him that portion of grain. So so there from them he takes those grain, and then when the mahots they give him water, he says no. For the preservation of prana, I can see people follow the Shaucha Niyama. They have their own rules and regulations, where to eat from, where not to eat from. All those, they have their personal niyamas. So all those niyamas can be broken to preserve oneself. So here in this case, so when the famine is there, that is devastating. So preservation of oneself is important, even if the rules are to be broken. And once one is sustained, see, all the rules and regulations apply only when we are alive. So to be alive, for bare minimum survival, whatever is needed, that can be accepted. There cannot be any rules and regulations on that when the life is threatened. So when the life is threatened, anything is acceptable. But all that can be accepted should serve only to the bare minimum survival. After that, again, once the prana is well established in our body, then again we should follow all those rules and regulations that establish the order in the society. So this can be the deciding scale as to what is his and what is bite.
Thank you, Mahodaya. We have one more question from Archana Vijay Kumar. She asks, how to control the fast random thoughts in our mind?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, there are many ways in which we can work on those random thoughts. There is no one panacea for that. We see in Yoga Sutra, there are a range of tools or range of techniques that are presented to lead to the chitta prasadanam, to make the mind peaceful. So what is random thoughts? It is a restlessness, a very fast movement of the mind. How can the mind be brought to the rest? There are various ways. That is, we can use the simple pranayama techniques. That is, to move the mind, or we can distract the mind, or to move the mind to a better focus. So we can work on regulating the breath. There are certain visualizations where we systematically visualize various things. There are techniques that are developed. We do in our tradition of Krishnamacharya, where we focus the mind with the help of prana, and also we can engage. See what happens in random thoughts is the energy of the mind. There is a overspending of the energy on thoughts. So random thoughts refer to, that is also spending of energy on thoughts. So if it is too much of a bothering, so we can divert that energy into the physical activities. One can go for a walk, one can do a particular asana, a series of asanas, or focus on the prana, or as was mentioned, one as among the divine qualities, doing swadhyaya, holding on to one mantra, or holding on to any chanting, or doing a parayana of one or a few shlokas. So all these are the ways. See, if we try to do if we try to answer thoughts with thoughts, they will only proliferate. There will be no end. So moving to a better activity, or if it reaches to a very bothering levels, so one can adopt these techniques to um, pacify oneself. And then what happens is, when at the spur of the moment, when we are thinking, overthinking, more and more thoughts will come, which will not lead to any solution, but to more and more worry, anxiety. We just leave that at wherever it is, we go away from that and focus at the various levels, either at the level of body or the breath, or various the parayana or the swadhyaya. And when there is a pause, if we are able to gain a mental pause from the current flurry of thoughts, that itself will help clarify. That itself will give us a particular direction. So this is what I feel, and this is what I have experienced. So this is not merely I'm just suggesting. I have attempted this, and to a great benefit, I could say that this is a useful method, or the range of method. That's why even if I am healthy, even if I am doing good physically, it is good to learn techniques of regulating the breath, regulating the movements by the body, or learning some chanting, some swadhyaya, some mantras. So that at the time, karyakale samutpanne nasa vidya natadhanam. In time of crisis, nothing will come. We cannot learn anything in the time of crisis. So we have to prepare ourselves with these tools, and then when we are bothered, or we are suffering because of these reasons at the mind, we can take recourse to them and then calm ourselves down.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we take one more question, sir?
Of course.
Okay. So Sri Shesh asks, how can I imbibe abhayam as a quality? Ahimsa or the physical strength as an example.
How can I imbibe abhayam as a quality? Consider physical strength or ahimsa physically, for example. I'm not very clear with what the question is. One should see that abhayam is means abhiruta. Abhiruta there in the context I have explained is not becoming meek, is not meekly surrendering before anyone else. So how will that abhayam or fearlessness come? Basically to develop by developing strength. So when we endow ourselves with strength, naturally fearlessness will come. So the point is, as Swami Vivekananda says, we have to work towards sound mind and sound body continuously. So the limbs of yoga are there to strengthen. We strengthen ourselves to such an extent that we are not afraid, physically also, by mentally also. How to mentally strengthen ourselves? What weakens us mentally, we have to think about that. What weakens us, that again Swami Vivekananda says, shed as poison whichever instills or whichever instills any sense of guilt or fear in you. So we should be very careful. At the physical level, it is to an extent a tangible way. There are tangible ways to increase the strength. At the mental level, how to imbibe the strength is being eternally vigilant as to what is going in. Am I imbibing only the positive things? A person who is endowed with all positive qualities, he becomes fearless. But when we give in to some uh, the the uh, the distractions or the attractions of the sense, not in the acceptable manner, so then we are endowed with the fear and guilt. So always following a straightforward path and also imbibing only positive things, so that is a method towards instilling or being established in abhayam, both at the physical and mental level.
We are getting more questions, sir.
uh,
Can we take up one or?
yeah, it's 8:30. One last question, please.
Okay, sir. So we have one more question on how can one attain perfect bliss in life?
I think for the last hour and a half I have spoken only in the about that. So it is, as I said, it is it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long drawn process. Dirghakala nairantarya satkara asevitah. See, if you want to get diamond, what should you do? Diamonds are not strewn across on the roads. It's not easy to be attained. You have to dig, and a lot of dirt will you may have to face a lot of dirt in the process of, in the sense, your clothes will be dirty and your face will become dirty. So all this you have to dig through, and finally the core or the diamond will be achieved, and that diamond also needs to be polished. So in this way, of course, a very good desire to attain bliss is needed, and then following these steps, or I feel systematically incorporating them in life one at a time. So one change per week, or at least let's take it easy. So there is, as Vivekananda says, as we have in a long tradition, that our life is not going to end with this birth alone. So let's take up one ideal for 1 month. Let's incorporate one value in our life per month. So how we can reflect upon, we can introspect, how far have we succeeded, how far have we not succeeded. We can evaluate and gradually incorporate all these values in our life, and as an outcome, see, the process will also be blissful. Any positive activity, any positive value that we are trying to inculcate in us, the process itself will be a one that which will give us satisfaction, and the outcome is certainly going to be blissful. So right away, see, the our new year comes only in the April. So but though the traditional new year comes in during Yugadi or during the Sauramana Varsha, but still those who believe or those who follow the Gregorian calendar, still the 2020 year, so the Gregorian New Year is coming up. So a resolution can be made that the first thing towards a blissful existence is having a dinacharya, having a schedule. So schedule, having a routine is not only for, as I emphasized in the talk also, it's not only for the children, even for elders, grown-ups, we should, or adults, though, we also need to have a regulated dinacharya. So then that is when we know how busy we are or how much time we are wasting. So then when the control, when the time is under our control, when we know exactly how we are spending our time, then we can blissfully, or we can employ our time in those activities that will give us positive happiness. So the key is having a systematic routine in life.
Dhanyavada Jayaramanji.
Yes.
I apologize, Lakshmi and Madhusudan, for not taking up your questions. We had a very eventful evening, Jayaraman sir. Knowing Dhanyavada is an understatement, I pray God to bestow on you for health and happiness.
Thank you very much.
We end this session with this quote: Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarvatra sanmangalani bhavantu. Namaste.
Namaste. Nirakula is a yogashala which firmly believes in promoting the ancient yogic tradition in the strictest sense and in its entirety. All our courses, may it be short-termed or long-termed, have in them the essence of mantra, tantra and yantra, guided by the principles of Yoga Parampara put forth by the Maharishis like Patanjali, Swatmarama and others. Hence, at Nirakula, the courses have been formulated keeping in mind the vastness of yogic traditions. Our system is a rich blend of yoga, both as chikitsa and sadhana. We strive to use the principles of yoga to synchronize with nature as much to correct the imperfections of the body, breath, and mind. The following fundamental principles are firmly believed and practiced at Nirakula. Nurture excellent practitioners to carry forward the rich tradition of yoga into the future and to address the unending challenges facing humanity today. Create a strong urge amongst the practitioners to embrace the continuous cycle of physical, mental, and spiritual growth. A few uniqueness of our long-term programs like 200 hours and 300 hours teachers training programs are as follows. Our 200 hours teacher training course is integrated with 20 hours of spoken Sanskritam course. As part of the course, we provide participants an understanding of ancient Indian astronomy, history, and psychology. Our 300 hours teacher training course covers a plethora of subjects including Swara Yoga, Nada Yoga, Mantra Yoga, Yoga philosophy, and psychology, a teaching methodology based on ancient Indian scriptures. This program opens up the participants towards ideas least discussed in academics like marriage, parenting, nutritious food that strengthens spiritual journey. During this program, we take students out to different parts of India and help the participants to realize as to how yoga has been internalized in our culture for more than 5,000 documented years. We have teachers to teach pratyahara and dharana practically. Our graduation day is based purely on the principles of ancient Indian idea of convocation. Namaste.